When a nursing home resident falls, the blame usually gets pinned on their age, their balance, or their dementia. But in many cases, the real problem starts with their medication, and no one tells the family about this side effect. My name is David Terry. I'm a nursing home abuse and neglect lawyer in Missouri, and I've seen too many cases where side effects like dizziness, sedation, or blood pressure drops were just ignored until somebody got seriously hurt. In this video, I'll explain which medications are most likely to cause falls, what signs to watch for, and what legal options you have if a facility failed to act. Now, there are several reasons why nursing home residents fall, and we have videos about those. But for our purposes today, let's stick with the topic at hand. In our example, the family's been told that mom fell, and no one can provide any explanation as to what happened. And then, after we get involved, sometimes we find out that the medication that the resident was on had side effects that lends itself to falls. And in fact, it's common for nursing home residents to suffer medication side effects, and many of them can set the stage for a fall. Look, the truth is certain medications and combinations of medications can make older adults much more likely to fall. Age alone makes us more likely to fall, and when you add medication side effects that can cause dizziness or blood pressure drops, it creates a need for the nursing home to be more vigilant. In Missouri, nursing homes have a legal duty to watch for problems like this and to protect residents from harm. If you have a family member in a facility, you need to know how medication side effects work and why they matter. Now, in nearly 25 years, I've handled more cases involving nursing home falls than I can remember. Some of those we determined were because of a resident suffered a side effect of medication and that caused her to fall. Sometimes it's a new medication. Other times it's a mix of several drugs together. And whether the facility made a mistake or simply ignored the warning signs, the results are often the same: broken hips, head injuries, trips to the hospital, and sometimes death. That's why understanding these risks is so important. So let's break down the medication side effects that most commonly lead to falls. And let's also talk about what Missouri law says about them. And then let's talk about what you can do to keep your loved one safe. So first, I want to walk you through the kinds of medication that, in my experience, are most often linked to falls in Missouri nursing homes. So let me give you a caveat here. I'm not bashing any of these medications, or even that they're prescribed to these elderly folks. I'm just saying that these particular drugs are known to have side effects that could be dangerous for vulnerable elderly residents. So there's a reason to be more alert should your loved one be taking one or more of these medications. There are many medications I could point to, but a few of them stand out. Let's start with the sedatives and sleeping pills. These are drugs like Ambien or Ativan. They're meant to help people sleep or to calm down. But in older adults, they can cause extreme drowsiness. They can cause confusion or unsteady walking, even hours after taking them. I've heard more stories than I can remember where residents have fallen shortly after starting a new sleeping medication. So you need to be on alert for that. Next is blood pressure medications. High blood pressure is common among nursing home residents. And these medicines, like lisinopril, can lower blood pressure so much that it makes someone lightheaded or dizzy when they stand up. This is called orthostatic hypotension, and it's a well-known risk, especially in seniors. And this is especially dangerous because elderly residents may not realize they're dizzy until they're already falling. Next, let's look at antidepressants and antipsychotics. Drugs like Zoloft or Seroquel or Risperdal can affect balance, coordination, and alertness. I've had family members tell me that their loved ones have become so sedated that they could barely walk safely, but staff members still let them move around without supervision. So you got to keep an eye on that. And finally, let's talk about painkiller, and especially I'm talking about opioids. These are medications like oxycodone or hydrocodone. These are powerful, but they can slow reflexes, dull the senses, and impair judgment. And for older people, even a low dose can be enough to cause serious falls. So look, there are other medications with similar risks, but these four groups are the most common when it comes to medication-related falls in Missouri nursing homes, in my opinion. So what's important is not just the medication itself, but how it's monitored and managed by the nursing home. Missouri nursing homes are expected to assess a resident's fall risk when a resident's medication changes, and then to act quickly if someone shows side effects like dizziness or confusion. And in my experience, this is not always done. So look, you might be wondering, why do these drugs affect mom and dad so much more now than they did when they were younger? And that's a great question. And here's what you need to know. As we age, our bodies process medications differently. The liver and the kidneys work more slowly. The brain's more sensitive. Balance and muscle strength are already reduced, and vision isn't always as sharp. So a dose that might be routine for a 30 or 40-year-old can affect an 85-year-old much differently. And nursing homes need to keep that in mind. Plus, older adults are often on several medications at once. Doctors call this polypharmacy, and it's a huge issue facing nursing homes. Studies show nursing home residents take an average of 7 to 8 medications daily, and some residents are on 12 or 15 prescriptions or more, all at the same time. The more medications someone takes, especially medications that affect blood pressure, balance, or alertness, the greater the risk of dangerous interactions and side effects. I've had cases here in Missouri where a resident is taking multiple medications simultaneously, and nobody seemed to be tracking how all those drugs together might affect the resident. It's a whole lot easier to just give a resident a pill and move on to the next resident than to really pay attention to what the resident is receiving and monitoring them for side effects. Now, what can you do as a family member? You may not be a nurse or a pharmacist or a doctor, but you are the expert on your loved one. You're the expert on mom and dad. You know what's normal for them and what isn't. So here's some warning signs that I tell every Missouri family to look for after mom or dad has gotten a medication change or a new prescription. Is there increased sleepiness or trouble waking up? Are they experiencing sudden confusion, agitation, or just not making sense? Are there balance problems that are new? Are they walking slower or grabbing furniture for support? Are they showing dizziness, especially when moving from a sitting to a standing position? Have there been new falls or near misses, like tripping or almost falling? Are they showing slurred speech or trouble with coordination? Look, if you see any of these things, don't just assume, well, it's their old age. Bring it to the staff's attention right away. Ask what new medications your loved one's taking, or if the dose has been changed. And Missouri nursing homes must watch for side effects and have a plan to address new risks like these. And families, you have the right to be informed of what's going on. So here's one way that this may manifest itself. One day a daughter notices that her mom's getting groggy and stumbling after breakfast, which is a new issue. When she asked about it, she's told by the nursing home, she's okay. It's just a bad day. It's just the normal effects of getting old or the normal effects of her condition, etc. They almost always have an explanation that does not reflect on their personal actions or their lack of action. Anyway, sometimes what happens in these circumstances is that the physician has ordered a new sedative and neither the physician or the nursing home tells the family about it. So you know what happens, right? That post-breakfast grogginess turns into a fall, a broken hip, and months of pain, or worse yet, a head injury that results in the death of the resident. So if you can see a change in your loved one, speak up and make sure that they don't blow you off. Make sure that the nursing home doesn't blow you off. Get real answers. It could save your loved one from a serious injury in the future. So Missouri nursing homes are required to protect residents from avoidable harm. That includes monitoring the resident for side effects when medications are introduced or changed. The facility should look at the resident's walking ability, whether they get dizzy, and how alert they are. They're supposed to adjust care based on what they find. That might mean extra help getting into the bathroom, or lowering the bed, or even rethinking the medication. Facilities are required to have their pharmacist review every resident's medication once a month. And when that monthly medication review identifies concerns about a fall risk, those concerns must be reported in writing to the physician and the nursing staff, and the facility needs to document how they're going to address that problem. If your loved one fell after a medication change and no one did an assessment or notified you, look, that's a red flag. You have the right to ask for the assessment records, for the medication list, and any notes about side effects. And if you're not getting answers, that's when it might be the time to call the state agency that oversees Missouri nursing homes, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. If your loved one has suffered a fall that results in a serious injury or death, you may also want to talk to an attorney who handles these types of cases. Now, maybe you're watching this because your loved one has already fallen and suffered an injury. If that's the case, here's the steps that I recommend for Missouri families. Ask for a full list of all the medications your loved one has taken and any recent changes that have occurred. Find out if a fall risk assessment was done after any medication changes. Ask if the staff or the facility's doctor noticed any warning signs before the fall. Document everything, dates, names, what the staff told you, and any changes that you noticed in your loved one and whether you reported them. Request the medical records for your loved one. In Missouri, the power of attorney for a living resident has the right to request those records. For a deceased resident, it does get a little bit more complicated, but basically the personal representative of the estate can request records, or if no estate's open, members of the wrongful death class of claimants can collect these records. Request the incident report from the nursing home about the fall. Now, let me talk a little bit about an incident report for a little bit. It is unlikely that they will give this to you. When lawyers get involved, nursing homes will fight tooth and nail to keep those things secret. And sometimes we get them and sometimes we don't. That is often a decision made by a judge. But why is that? In Missouri, incident reports are sometimes considered peer review materials or attorney work product, and that can make them privileged. However, not all incident reports qualify for this protection, and it's worth pursuing them because they often contain critical information about what actually happened. But you're probably going to have a lawyer involved to help you make that fight to get an incident report. Now, let me make a prediction here based off of nearly 25 years of handling nursing home cases and assisted living facility cases. You can ask for all those documents and ask all the right questions and seek the right answers, but more than likely, you're going to get vague answers, changing stories, delays in responding, or you'll just be ignored altogether. The nursing home industry is among the best at circling the wagons to cover their own neglect and poor care. And I'm not saying all of them do this, but in my experience, it has been a pretty common practice that when nursing homes have caused an injury or death through their own negligence, they do as much as they can to avoid blame. And if your loved one was seriously injured or suffered a wrongful death by a Missouri nursing home, then you have the right to pursue legal action to force them to be held accountable. I've seen the difference it makes when families push for information. Oftentimes, once we get involved, we discover the truth about what happened. And that truth looks nothing like the story or the multiple stories that my clients were originally told. And I'm always so impressed with family members who refuse to believe the nonsensical stories that they're told by the nursing home, and they hire a lawyer to get to the truth and to get justice for their loved one. It's a daunting task to take on the nursing home. It's a real David and Goliath feeling. So when families come to me with their stories, it's an honor when they trust us to represent them. So here's what I advise every Missouri family to do. Starting today, stay involved, visit often, ask questions, pay attention to any changes in your loved one's mood, alertness, or stability. Keep a notebook, jot down any medication changes and what you observe over the next few days. If there are nursing home employees who you are wary of or who are not doing what they should be doing, write their names down and talk to the administrative staff about them. Likewise, if there are nursing home employees who are doing a great job, write their names down too. Writing the names of the good and the bad employees will be helpful in the event you ever need an attorney for something that happens there. So be sure to attend care plan meetings with the nursing staff and the physician. Review the medication list. Voice your concerns and ask them specifically what they are going to do to monitor your loved one and what they're going to do to prevent falls. Ask those items to be specified in the care plan. And look, don't accept vague reassurances. If a staff member says, well, it's just part of aging after a fall, push for a real explanation. I touched on that a bit earlier, but it's really important to me, and I get frustrated with all these vague, nonsensical answers. Know your rights. You can request records and reports from the nursing home. You need to do this if you want to learn everything you can about the care that your loved one's getting there. Know what fall prevention measures are supposed to be in place. For example, if the bed is supposed to be in a low position with a cushioned mat next to it, Take a picture if you see that it is not in that position. Take pictures of other things that are not being done properly as well. And if your loved one is injured in a fall, take a picture of their injuries. Now, look, I know can be hard to do, and it's not the first thing you're thinking about doing, but it's critical in the event that there is future legal action. Today, we talked about why medication side effects can be one of the more common reasons why nursing home residents fall. And we've discussed what Missouri families can do to protect their loved ones. If you found this valuable, don't miss our next video, which is called Can You Sue an Assisted Living Facility the Same Way as a Nursing Home? It's packed with crucial advice every Missouri family needs to know right now to protect their rights and to hold facilities accountable. We'll see you over there.